They gave me the feedback I needed to hear. They picked me up when I fell down. They coached. They made work fun. So that's the first step, look up, which is who are your role models? And if you want bonus points, send that person a message to say, hey, I was thinking about you today. I just want you to know this is what I valued about when we worked together. Now that's an investment in that relationship. Then we can move to show up, because show up is then, well, how do I want to be known? Especially if that's who I admire, my role models. How do I need to show up in order for me to adapt or adopt the behaviours that they demonstrated?
Oh.
And then the third element, step up, is okay, of the list that you've just created, pick one.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that shaped how they see life, helping you discover wisdom that makes your own journey a little clearer. Today's guest is Morag Barrett, a leadership expert who spent years proving that success isn't just about what you accomplish, it's about how you connect. She's helped thousands of leaders across the globe transform their relationships, and when she's not changing workplace cultures, we might find her enjoying a proper cup of tea. Let's step into Morag's world and hear the quote that has guided her path. Tell us your name and what you do.
My name is Morag Barrett. I am an executive coach and a keynote speaker based in Colorado.
What's your favorite quote?
Well, the one I'm really living with at the moment is success in business is powered by relationships, but success in life is fueled by connection.
Ooh, okay. Can you speak, what's the word? Kindergarten.
What's the word?
Can you speak kindergarten? I wanted to say lema, but I was like, no. Can you speak, when I say kindergarten, what I mean is, can you speak, can you break it down for us using, terms and, illustrations that a child in let's kindergarten, maybe, kindergarten. I don't know what they call it there, but
kindergarten. Oh, yeah. I hear what you're saying. Yes, of course. Well, think about the quote. It has two parts. The first is success in business is powered by relationships.
Okay.
And when I started my career a long time ago, my first career was in banking in the UK. And I remember being told, it's not personal, it's just business.
Ooh.
And certainly the focus, because it's banking, it's finance, was on the numbers. And so leaders would come to me to ask for a loan to support their company. And they all had a spreadsheet, a cash flow forecast, a business plan that showed that they were going to be wildly successful. And it was focused on what they did and how they organised the technology, the systems, the equipment that they needed to build that product or deliver that service. But it became apparent to me quite early on that that was only half the equation. Because if it was as simple as writing a few numbers in a spreadsheet, we would all be rich. All our dreams would be coming to fruition. And when I paused to look at what made the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful companies, it was the ones that didn't just have a great idea, a great service or a widget. It was also the ones who focused on how business gets done, the who we are, either as employees, as teammates, as customers, and how we relate, especially in times of uncertainty and friction. So that is what was the inspiration for me shifting my career from being purely numbers into leadership and executive development, from what we do to how we do it. And the first part of that quote that I shared, which is that business, it is personal, and business success, apologies, I'm getting over a cold.
No
Business
problem.
success is powered by our relationships. So as leaders, wherever we are in our career, we should be focusing on nurturing the relationships up, down, and across in our organizations.
Okay, that's the first part. What about the second part?
Well, so that takes me back in time again, because when I started my career, I wore the expected professional mask. When I was at work, I was the bank manager Morag, which meant I kept things buttoned up. You wore the suit. You did not talk about what was happening at home and in life. And we talk about work-life balance as if we have a choice that at 5 o'clock when I leave this office, I turn into somebody else. Or at 9 o'clock in the morning, I turn into the professional me. Well, there is only one Morag. There is only one you. And so if success at work in business is powered by relationships, work is just one part of life. We can't separate the two. And life, again, it is best done with others. And that is why it's fueled by connection, because connection then goes beyond the transaction. Connection is about engaging the hearts and the minds of our friends, our family, and our colleagues.
Oh,
So there you go. Mic drop.
In this context, what's the difference between relationship and connection?
So you can have one without the other. So if you think about it at work, we can have a relationship because we're on the same team, but if I don't know your story, a little bit of your life and your leadership journey, we don't get the empathy, the compassion, the deeper connection that we need in order to be successful. And it's possible to, collect a business card at a conference. That too can be a connection, but you don't get the relationship until you go deeper. So what I have learned to do, and what I've written 2 books about, is how do you get past the transaction and start getting something that is transformational, where you know that I care about your success as much as I do my own, where we go beyond the job title and the task that we're doing today to getting to know a little bit about the whole life, the who you are, the what you aspire to, so that we can be better together.
Oh. So what you're saying is that what you're saying is the relationship. I just want to make sure that I understand you clearly. What you're saying is that relationship comes after connection.
Chicken and egg. But yes, let's go with yes.
I see. Okay, let's go with yes. Because right now I'm like relationship connection, and I'm like, it doesn't take a connection to have relationship, and yeah.
When you have both, it is magical. Because you think about the people that you turn to in times of uncertainty. Those are the people that you have both a connection and a relationship with. They're the ones that you can have the courage to be more vulnerable with, to say, I don't know what to do next, to ask for help and to take that help when it's offered. When we keep things at an arm's length, like I was told early in my banking career, it's not personal, it's just business, then we have a wall. And that's where many leaders, many employees show up with that fake professional mask on. And in a Zoom call, you may never know what's really happening for them. And all you know is they're not meeting your expectations. They're not giving you the feedback you need to hear. They're just going through the motions. And that's the difference that we want to break out, but also to recognize we need other human beings, whether the path we're on in this moment is at work, or if this path that we're on at this moment is part of our broader lives.
Yeah. From what you just explained so far, it makes sense. It's a better approach to live towards life, and but it's not something that is. It's not one of those good things where you're like, yeah, I mean, if I'm just there, it will just happen. It's something that you have to be intentional about in terms of thought and of course in action too. So now the question is, what do I do to be intentional about it?
So the first thing is, well, I use the framework look up, show up, step up. And you can learn more about that in my second book. It's called You, Me, We, Why We All Need a Friend at Work and How to Show Up as One, written with my friends at work, Eric Spencer and Ruby Vesely. And we end each chapter with this structure, look up, show up, step up. So if I think about look up, that's the first thing is, think about the colleague that you would jump at the chance to work with again, the person that you really enjoyed working with. And I'll ask you, who comes to mind for you as a colleague that you really enjoyed working with, or a boss that you enjoyed working with? Who's come to mind and what made them special?
I mean, they truly cared, like not just in terms of asking when things went wrong and you actually told them about it. They did help. So it wasn't like, oh, they asked, or when you gave them the answers, they were willing to help. So that's what comes up at the top of my mind right now.
So look up is to decide for yourself, what does it mean to be a good colleague, a good team member? And when I ask leaders this question, rarely do they start with, it was because they were the smartest person in the room, because they were very good at the technical skills. Every single time, I guarantee, it is because of how they made you feel. They gave me the feedback I needed to hear. They picked me up when I fell down. They coached. They made work fun. So that's the first step, look up, which is, who are your role models? And if you want bonus points, send that person a message to say, hey, I was thinking about you today. I just want you to know this is what I valued about when we worked together. Now that's an investment in that relationship. Then we can move to show up, because show up is then, well, how do I want to be known? Especially if that's who I admire, my role models. How do I need to show up in order for me to adapt or adopt the behaviours that they demonstrated?
Cool.
And then the third element, step up, is okay, of the list that you've just created, pick one. What's the one thing that you are ready, willing and able to make a habit as from today? And the rest of it, you can do that next month. You can do it later in the year. But if we are all being thoughtful about who we are and who are the folks around us, that's when look up, show up and step up can keep us intentional about investing in our relationships, not just to give to others, but to make sure that others know what we need from them in order to be at our best.
Now, this is a very fantastic idea. But yes, where I'm thinking things might go wrong. For some persons,
Okay.
they've not been opportune to work with people or persons that are really, really great. They've had colleagues that, they were not terrible, but they were, okay, just there.
Yeah.
And so now when you ask them to look up, I feel they would be looking around and say, oh, I mean, in terms of comparison, like who's the best person I've worked with? I mean, it is the best, but it's not, I mean, these people are not really, really, really good. And so in that scenario, what would happen?
Well, look inward then. So the step one look up is, how do I feel? How do I feel in my own presence? Am I having fun at work? Am I thriving? Am I using my skills and talents in the best way possible? Then show up is, how do others feel in my presence? Do I help build people up? Are they looking forward to me joining the meeting or the conversation? Or is there a sigh of relief when I hang up or when I leave? Because there's your gap between who you want to be. It's nothing now to do with the role models if you haven't got them. But how do you want to feel? How do you want others to feel and remember you? And that still leaves us with step up with, okay, so what are you going to do to create that leadership legacy where you are a colleague that people remember with fondness, where people on a Monday morning are looking forward to coming to work with you versus the average or the not so good role models that you described just a moment ago? The power is within us, but only if we're being thoughtful about who we are and how we want to be known. And what is it that we need to be doing more of or less of to make that a reality? And when we do that, it is a powerful combination that makes us the go-to colleague versus the one that others avoid.
Yeah, and just to go back to the question, of course, you did answer it beautifully, is that when you ask that question, think of a colleague you worked with in the past. One thing I think would happen is that there are two chats, right? There are the terrible employees, terrible colleagues, and then the really, really great employees. And then there are the employees nobody gets to remember. They're not terrible, they're not really good, but they're just there. They're okay. So nobody really. So there's nothing remarkable, right? But if the employee, if the colleague is really terrible, where they're like they tell you something. Right, like terrible, like maybe it's really toxic. You get to remember them. Now, of course, notoriously not in a good way, right? But then there's also the really good colleague where you remember them, right? Because they really touched you, they really made you feel good. Working them was really an enjoyable experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join. Or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, and now you say we should look inward and we should ask ourselves, how do people feel in our presence? And I saw this quote recently, and it's a good thing. We're talking about success and relationships and in business and then in life too. That the position titles, right? It gets people to what's the word? Yeah, titles, positions gets people to why am I forgetting this? I forgot the quote completely. But the idea of the quote is that it gets title position gets people to to do things. What's the word? When people really really respect and see the vision really well, and they respect the leader. That it gets them to commit to the goal and to showing up, not just meeting deadlines and all that.
So here's the thing. Success is that intersection of what I know, my IQ, my technical skills, the reputation that goes before me, which can be good or bad or just non-existent, and then the relationships. But if you don't have the relationships, then when we make a mistake, others are less likely to give the benefit of the doubt, to forgive that mistake. They're more likely to label us as unreliable. And so one simple tactic is to think about what 3 words would you hope others use to describe you when you're not in the room. So what 3 words would you hope others would use to describe you?
Oh, wow, never thought of that question. Well, that's a deep one. 3 words I would want other. I mean, so many words they're just running through my head.
Pick your favourite 3.
Okay, diligent. Yeah, that's one.
Diligent, okay. Yeah.
A man of my words. Okay, I know you said words, but
A
I'm trying
man
to think
of
of a
your
word.
words.
Yeah, I mean, what's the word
That's
for
fine.
that?
You can have a
For that
hyphen.
phrase? Yeah.
Reliable.
Yeah. You say you do what you say you're going to do. Yeah, reliable.
Yes.
Yeah, and then.
And is there a third?
The third will be, I'm thinking of I'm like I feel like kind, but I feel like kind does not really communicate the idea. But yeah, I'll stick with that. Yeah,
that's good. Take kind. Kind is a good one. So here's what we can do now: is tomorrow ask somebody, hey, one of my podcast guests asked me this question: what 3 words? So I'm curious. What 3 words would you use to describe me?
Ooh.
And again, it's a way of getting feedback, because they'll either align, maybe they use nice instead of kind, and you can decide whether or not that's okay. But if they say mean, there's a gap to be addressed, and I think that unlikely they're going to say that. But that's what we can do, which is just ask, how am I doing? In what way do I help you to be successful? In what way do I get in the way of your success? And what's one thing I can do to help us to be more successful together?
Yeah. The issue though is, as let's say, for example, let's say in the context of the boss, right? They're asking someone, usually the employees will not want to say something, that would displease the boss. You was like, yeah, kind, even though it's not kind. And so how do we create a situation where people are not afraid to give us a honest answer?
Well, that's where the books come in, and the relationship and connection, because when you have a relationship that has a foundation of trust, then we are more willing to take personal risk by giving more accurate feedback. So you're right that if you're my boss and you ask me on day one what do I think of you as my boss, I'm unlikely to say, well, you suck at this and I wish you would do that, but you're good at this. Because that's going to be career limiting for me. You might fire me. But here's the thing for the boss. If you don't create a relationship where somebody can give you that feedback, whether it's a direct report or a peer, it's going to be career limiting for you. Because at some point, you're not getting the messages you need to hear about the work that we're doing. And then we're going to miss the goals and we're going to miss the deadline. And you and I are going to suffer. So when you're in a newish relationship at work, or if you're in one that hasn't yet got to that high trust, instead of asking open-ended questions around, how do I show up at work? What am I good at? Which may make them nervous. Instead of asking for feedback, ask for advice. Because that's focused on the future. So maybe the question is, I want to get better at my public speaking skills. What's one suggestion you have for me? And then no matter what they say, your answer has to be, thank you.
Wow.
You don't have to act on it.
No matter what they say.
Say thank you. Because you asked. You asked for the feedback. You asked for the advice. Say thank you. Be gracious in that message. Because then the person who's given it to you, when they see you that you don't get upset, that you don't get defensive, you don't ask them to explain and justify, their confidence will go up a little bit. They will believe that their opinion matters to you. They will feel heard. And then the next time you ask, they may go a little deeper. And eventually over time, they're going to give you that feedback you need to hear, not just the surface level easy messages, but the important messages that can literally transform your reputation and your career.
Yeah, and I know in the context of the explanation you just gave, we're talking about jobs, but this is something we can also apply with friends, family, members of a club, a community, and all that, and to really get answers. And I like the fact where you talked about don't ask them to explain or justify it, because this conversation is a very sensitive conversation, especially if it's between or someone who's has a higher position, and then someone who, like, the boss and then the employer. I just keep giving an example, because now you're like, don't explain or justify it, because it's really it's sensitive enough, and so people would want to see what would they say, what would he say? Does he say, oh, that's complete nonsense? Are you just making stuff up? And then in the future, when you're like, you're doing well. You're the best boss I've ever seen. So
you don't overinflate, and you can't knock somebody, because if that is their experience of working with you, if you ask a friend for, like, who's your best boss, what's one thing they do well, you can't then argue whether or not it truly was a good thing to do or not. It's their experience of a best boss. The best answer is always thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Morag, for sharing this with me and my listeners. I'm really glad I had this conversation with you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. If people want to, you showed us your book, and I'd love for you to just tell us, briefly, very briefly, so that you can about the book. I love the design of the book, and if you're listening to the podcast on audio only, you can see the book design on YouTube. Yeah. Wow. This one is Cultivate, and the other one is You vs. Me. What's the Cultivate about?
So this one, Cultivate the Power of Winning Relationships, introduces a model I call the relationship ecosystem, and 4 relationship dynamics that we all experience at work. So your ally, your best friend at work, supporters, rivals, and adversaries. It was so successful, I kept getting leaders calling me saying, yeah, okay, I get it, but now how do I show up as an ally at work? And so that was the inspiration for You, Me, We, why we all need a friend at work and how to show up as one. And in here are the 5 practices that make for being and having allies. And that is based on research and interviews with leaders from around the world and from the 1,000 leaders that have taken our ally mindset profile.
I'm guessing, would you write a book for people like us who want to show up as rivals in the workspace? I'm just kidding.
Show up as rivals. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that suggestion. I'll take it on advisement.
That would be nice to read. I mean, it would be a book on how to show up as rivals, but it would be a book where you read to not show up as a rivals. I don't know if it makes sense.
Well, it does. And here's the thing, and the misunderstanding of having a friend at work. I think about Eric and Ruby, my best friends at work, and you still have competition. We compete with each other. But instead of competing in a win-lose, who can knock the other person down, we're competing to raise the bar so that we all keep getting better.
Yeah.
And that is a subtle but really important shift that has meant that Sky Team, our company, has been successful now for 18 years and worked with leaders from 20 countries. So it really does have an impact. I've seen it transform individual leader, team, and company cultures. And it starts one conversation and one relationship at a time.
Oh, thank you so much, Morag. I'd love to continue this conversation with you. I'd reach out to you. So probably maybe you'd, for a workshop or masterclass later on in the future, after this episode has been released, because I feel like, there's so much wisdom you have to share with us that 30 minutes is not enough. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Where can listeners learn more about you and the books?
2 places. Well, 3 places. Okay. So the books, any bookstore, they're available internationally in print, audio, and...
Would you be kind enough to repeat the titles of the books again?
Yep. So we have You, Me, We, Why We All Need a Friend at Work and How to Show Up as One. And then we have Cultivate, The Power of Winning Relationships. So wherever you get your books. Then you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. It's the only social media platform I'm choosing to play on at the moment. And you can find us at our website, which is SkyTeam, SKYE, team.com.
Okay, what's your name on LinkedIn?
Morag Barrett. That's the advantage of a less common name. You can find me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Morag Barrett. It's been an absolute delight chatting with you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Okonkwo. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatablewisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.